The words sliced through the phone speaker like broken glass. "Your kids can skip this year. Mother's Day is only for the well-behaved ones." My daughter Naomi's small hands froze mid-air, juice cup suspended inches from her lips. The amber liquid trembled against the plastic as her eyes widened, processing what her grandmother had just said about her. A visible shudder ran through her 8-year-old shoulders as she set the cup down with painful deliberation, trying not to make a sound as tears gathered. My pulse thundered in my ears as I watched my child's face crumple in slow motion. The kitchen suddenly felt airless, the morning sunlight harsh and exposing as Naomi whispered, barely audible, "Grandma doesn't love me." My name is Penelope Wright. I'm 32 and a financial systems analyst. This is the story of how I rebuilt boundaries that should never have been broken. I'd spent my entire life playing mediator in my family's emotional warfare. The pattern was always the same. They would wound, I would absorb. They would expect forgiveness without apology. For years, I'd paid their bills, hosted their celebrations, financed their emergencies, all while they criticized every aspect of my parenting, my career, my life choices. The unspoken arrangement was clear. My financial support bought me a place at their table, even if that place came with conditions. I had accepted this as the cost of family, convincing myself that access to grandparents was worth the occasional emotional bruising. But something fundamental shifted when I saw my daughter's face in that moment. It wasn't just hurt, it was recognition. At 8 years old, she was learning what had taken me 3 decades to understand. In my family, love was conditional. I typed back a short reply. "Understood. I'll cancel my card for the event." Mom left me on read and immediately forwarded my text to the family group chat like a trophy. Within 5 minutes, my phone buzzed with notifications. My Instagram feed filled with my sister Vivian's stories. Champagne glasses clinking, plates piled with lobster pasta, my cousins laughing around a restaurant table. The caption stung worse than the exclusion. Mother's Day with a real family. They thought public humiliation would make me fold. It didn't. Instead, it crystallized everything I'd been avoiding admitting for years. Their love wasn't just conditional, it was transactional. They valued my bank account more than my child's heart. I turned off the kitchen lights and sat beside Naomi on our living room couch, pulling her close. She smelled like apple juice and the strawberry shampoo she insisted on buying last week. Her small body curled against mine, still trembling slightly. "You don't ever need to earn love," I whispered against her hair. "If they don't treat you like treasure, they lose access to you." Then I unlocked my phone, opened my banking app, and did what I should have done years ago. With each tap, I felt myself breathing easier. Remove linked card, cancel auto payment, freeze joint access, suspend reimbursement account. $0 available to every single one of them. While I methodically dismantled the financial scaffolding they'd come to take for granted, my sister's smug updates kept arriving. Close-ups of Wagyu steaks, a dessert tower that must have cost hundreds, wine bottles with vintages I recognized from my own cellar, all charged to the account that had just ceased to exist. They had no idea their celebration was about to collapse. 14 minutes later, my phone screen lit up with notifications. Decline, decline, decline. The first call I answered wasn't from my mother. It was from the restaurant manager, his voice tight with professional restraint. "Ms. Wright, I'm very sorry to bother you, but your family's card is declining repeatedly. They're telling us you're on your way with another payment method." I stepped onto my balcony, evening air warm against my skin. The city lights blurred below, a constellation of lives unfolding in apartments where other families were perhaps navigating their own complicated dynamics. "No, I'm not coming," I said evenly, "and they are no longer authorized users." Silence stretched between us, filled only by the distant sounds of restaurant chaos, clattering plates, shifting chairs, rising voices. "So, who is responsible for this bill?" he finally asked. "My mother," I answered, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "The one who told my daughter she isn't well behaved enough to attend." Another pause, then a quiet exhale of understanding. "I'll speak with them," he said, his tone shifting from concern to certainty. "Thank you for the clarification." The call ended, and seconds later, my phone exploded. First, my sister. "What did you do?" Then Mom. "Call me now. This isn't funny." Then my cousin. "We just ordered dessert." What is happening? What shocked me most wasn't their panic or their anger. It was my own reaction, or rather the absence of it. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't rush to rescue them. I didn't apologize. I didn't negotiate. I simply watched the notifications accumulate while something like peace settled in my chest. Naomi looked up from where she was curled on the couch, her finger tracing idle patterns on my arm. "Mommy, are they mad?" she whispered. I smoothed her hair back from her forehead. "They're mad because they didn't expect consequences." "Are we in trouble?" I kissed her forehead, noting the faint freckles that had appeared this summer. "No, baby. We're protected." Outside in the restaurant, I imagined the scene unfolding. Phones waved frantically, voices rising, chairs scraping against hardwood, cards failing one after another. For the first time in years, they couldn't hide from the bill they'd created. When my mother finally called, not a text, not a voice note, but an actual call. Her voice wavered with an emotion I rarely heard from her, uncertainty. "Penelope, sweetheart, your card must have some issue. Can you just fix it so we can finish dinner?" I leaned back against the couch cushions, keeping my voice deliberately calm. "There is no issue. I removed you all today." She didn't respond immediately. I heard her breathing change, felt the exact moment when realization transformed into familiar entitlement. "You're doing this on Mother's Day? In front of everyone? You're humiliating us." "No," I replied, surprised by how little her accusation affected me. "You did that when you told my daughter she wasn't worthy of you." The silence that followed had texture, dense with shock, then building indignation. I heard chairs being pushed back, urgent whispers, someone asking the waiter to try again. "You better fix this before the entire restaurant sees us being escorted out," my mother hissed. "There's nothing to fix," I said. Her breathing sharpened. "You think you're powerful because you have money?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm powerful because I finally removed access." She tried one more tactic, the quivering voice, the theatrical sniffling that had worked since I was 10. But beneath the performance, I heard something new. Fear. The sudden understanding that the vault had closed and she was standing outside with everyone else. I ended the call, feeling neither victorious nor angry, just finally done. Naomi looked up from her coloring book, purple crayon poised above paper. "Is Grandma still mad?" "She's learning," I whispered. My phone lit up again. The restaurant manager, his message terse. "They're refusing to leave. We need your authorization for the next step." I closed my eyes, exhaled slowly, and made my decision. I arranged for Mrs. Chen next door to stay with Naomi, then grabbed my car keys and drove to La Maison, my mother's favorite restaurant where they always celebrated special occasions. I knew the exact table they'd be at, the corner booth with the city view that Mom insisted was the only acceptable seating for people of our standing. 15 minutes later, I walked through the restaurant's glass doors, not because I hurried, but because I deliberately took my time. The maitre d' recognized me immediately, relief washing over his face as he gestured toward the back corner. My mother stood rigid beside their table, mascara tracking dark rivers down her cheeks, crumpled napkins clutched in her fist. My sister sat with arms crossed tightly, her expression a study in righteous indignation. The young waiter hovering nearby looked like he was contemplating career changes. What they hadn't anticipated was the audience. Other diners glanced over repeatedly, some not even pretending not to watch. At least 2 phones were held at video capturing angles. This wasn't the glamorous Mother's Day they'd envisioned sharing online. My mother grabbed my wrist the moment I came within reach. "Penelope, stop this right now and unfreeze the card. We are humiliated." I maintained steady eye contact. "You humiliated yourselves when you told my daughter she wasn't invited." "You must forgive," she snapped, voice trembling with contained rage. "Family always forgives." In that moment, I heard my daughter's voice again, that small, confused sob. "Why don't they want me, Mommy?" I turned to the manager. "You can run the charge through my account," I said, "but not for their table. Only for the food already served, not the champagne, not the extra desserts, just the basics." The manager nodded once, professional mask firmly in place. I looked back at my mother, studying the face I'd spent a lifetime trying to please. "You don't get to keep privileges after you throw away people." Her chin trembled. My sister inhaled sharply as if preparing for another attack, then seemed to reconsider when she met my gaze. For the first time in my life, they understood there were consequences, real ones. The manager processed the payment efficiently. I signed and walked toward the exit. My mother followed me into the entrance hallway, clutching her designer purse, her voice thin as tissue paper. "Penelope, you're not serious about what you said earlier, right?" I turned to face her fully. "I'm not cutting anyone out," I clarified. "I'm cutting myself free." She stood frozen, as if seeing a stranger wearing her daughter's face. The elevator doors slid open behind me. I stepped inside with deliberate slowness, maintaining eye contact until the last possible moment. "What are you going to do?" she whispered just before the doors closed. I didn't answer because there was nothing left to say, only proof to deliver. On the drive home, my phone vibrated continuously. My father calling, my brother calling, relatives I barely spoke to suddenly concerned. Voice messages, screenshots, texts, all of them suddenly desperate to understand my state of mind. It struck me as darkly amusing how quickly they discovered urgency when their comfort was threatened. When my daughter cried, they were silent. When their luxury brunch collapsed, they found their voices. Walking into our apartment, I found Naomi where I'd left her with our neighbor, coloring on the carpet with her earbuds in, still wearing her purple hoodie from that morning. She looked up when I entered, eyes wide, searching my expression for signals about how to feel. I knelt beside her. "I didn't let them talk down to us today." Her shoulders dropped, relief washing over her small features as if she'd been holding her breath. I pulled her close, kissed the top of her head, then opened my laptop. People think consequences are purely emotional. They fail to understand that consequences can be structural. Inside my banking dashboard, I navigated to the Authorized Users tab. 3 names appeared: Mom, brother, dad. 3 people who had treated me like an ATM dressed in skin. Remove access, confirm. A window appeared. Processing completed. They wanted to play hierarchy games? Fine. Let's see how they operated without access to the very woman they had declared not good enough for Mother's Day. The next morning, Sunday turned to Monday, and the real fallout began. 8 a.m. Before I'd finished brushing my teeth, my phone lit up like New Year's Eve. 15 missed calls, 9 voice messages, 6 texts marked urgent. Pick up now. My mother first, then my father, then my brother, all erupting like a malfunctioning fire hydrant. They were all still in my contacts, so despite my emotional distance, their messages got through. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I poured Naomi's cereal, packed her school folder, tied her sneakers. She hummed a TikTok song as if nothing in the world was wrong. Because for her, nothing was. That was precisely the point. For the first time, the storm was happening outside our home, not within it. 10:14 a.m. The bank manager called. "Ms. Wright, your mother and brother are here demanding access. We've informed them they've been removed as authorized users. They're not handling it well." I sipped my coffee, tasting the bittersweet victory. "Tell them to contact legal, not me." He paused. "I already did." 11:02 a.m. My brother sent a photo. Him, Mom, Dad, standing in the lobby of my bank like 3 VIPs who'd just discovered their badges no longer scanned. The message read, "Fix this now. 2 years ago, this would have broken me. Today it felt like justice, finally remembering my address." At 12:45 p.m., while heating pasta for lunch, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. "Ms. Wright, this is Samantha from Family Affairs Counseling. Your mother scheduled a mediation meeting and listed you as attending." I actually laughed. "They didn't ask me." "Oh, they implied you'd already agreed." "Of course they did. They never ask. They assign. I will not be attending." As I rinsed the pasta pan, it struck me. They weren't trying to make peace. They were attempting to regain access. Everything had shifted from emotional manipulation to tactical warfare. 3:17 p.m. proved this theory correct. My phone lit up with a FaceTime request from my aunt in Florida, whom I hadn't spoken to in 8 years. The moment I answered, she launched in without preamble. "Sweetheart, your mother is hysterical. Why would you do this to your own family? They said you froze cards during Mother's Day. How cruel can you be?" There it was, the smear campaign, the make her the villain phase, the last weapon they thought they still controlled. I kept my voice calm. "Aunt Rachel, did they tell you they told my 8-year-old daughter she's not a well-behaved child? Did they tell you they laughed while she cried? Did they tell you they bragged about a luxury brunch while expecting me to pay the bill they hid from me?" Silence fell, heavier with each question. "No," she finally said. "They didn't mention that." Of course not. They don't include context. They only include control. I paused. "Aunt Rachel, I'm not punishing them. I'm protecting us." I ended the call politely, then blocked her number too. At 5:51 p.m., my mother tried a new approach, a video call where she held Naomi's old baby blanket like some nostalgic emotional weapon. Her eyes were red, her voice cracked. "Families fight, but money doesn't need to be involved. You can reverse all this." Reverse? There was nothing to reverse. This was the first time in my entire life I hadn't folded. "Mom," I said slowly, "you're only upset because I stopped funding your cruelty." Her lips parted as if I'd physically struck her. I ended the call mid-sob, turned to my daughter coloring on the floor, and kissed her head. I'm breaking the cycle for her. At 9:28 p.m., my legal advisor texted, "It's time." 15 minutes later, I sat at my kitchen island, laptop open, legal documents illuminating my face while Naomi slept in her room, nightlight casting soft pink shadows on her walls. My attorney's voice on speakerphone was clinically precise. All family-linked accounts, obligations, joint access, and informal authorizations are now formally dissolved. You are legally insulated. No one can demand anything further. Do you wish to file the final notice? I stared at the blinking cursor. This wasn't revenge. This was the moment I became undeniably free. I clicked send. In less than a second, an entire lifetime of emotional debt was closed. At 10:11 p.m., my father called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered only because I wanted the final moment to be clean. His voice wasn't angry now. It was thin, uncertain. "Your mother can't stop crying," he whispered. "Your brother feels humiliated. They feel betrayed." Steam rose from my tea, curling in the dim kitchen light. "I felt that for 30 years, I replied. "You just never noticed." He said nothing because there was nothing left to manipulate. "I'm not cutting anyone out," I clarified. "I'm cutting myself free." They can still be part of our lives, but only if they respect our boundaries. Until then, the relationship is formally suspended. He inhaled sharply, and for perhaps the first time ever, he truly heard me. The next morning, I drove Naomi to the botanical garden. We walked among cherry blossoms, their pink petals drifting around us like snow. We laughed. We ate ice cream at 9:30 a.m. for absolutely no reason. Her happiness wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was ours, pure, untouched, unbargained. As she hugged my arm and pointed to a butterfly struggling to escape its cocoon, I felt it deep in my chest. We had broken the pattern. My family had lost their supply, but I had gained something they never possessed or understood, a life built on self-respect, not fear. 6 months later, my sister Vivian reached out with a genuine apology. We've started tentative coffee meetings, just the two of us. My mother still sends occasional texts that I read but rarely respond to. My father calls once a month, always brief, always respectful of the new boundaries. My brother hasn't spoken to me since that day, his pride still too wounded to accept the new reality. I've made peace with that final closure. I'm choosing a future where my daughter grows up knowing she never has to beg anyone to see her value. The legacy of humiliation ended here with me, quietly, firmly, permanently. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.